More than 80% of boat owners are unknowingly shortening the life of their outboard motor. These silent mistakes do not show up until you are facing a $6,000 powerhead rebuild. Today, we are exposing 15 costly habits that destroy outboards every single day. If you are making even one of them, you could be taking years off your engine's life without realizing it. Mistake number 15, starting the motor without water. So many people fire up their outboard on the trailer or in the driveway just to hear it run or check something, with no water source hooked up. Bad idea. Your outboard's water pump uses a rubber impeller to pull cooling water up through the lower unit. Run that pump dry, even for a few seconds, and the rubber vanes drag against the housing with no lubrication. You're grinding that impeller down before the season even starts. Someone flushes their motor mentally, forgets the muffs or the flush port, cranks it over, and lets it idle while they walk off to grab a beer. 20 seconds later, that impeller's got flat spots and torn vanes. Now it can't move enough water. Your motor overheats on the lake, and you're staring at a warped power head. A new impeller is a $30 part and an hour of your time. Waiting until it fails is a $4,000 lesson. Never, and I mean never, start that motor without water running through it. Muffs on the intake or docked in the water. Those are your only two options. And if you think running it dry is bad, wait till you see what people do to their fuel that rots the whole system from the inside. But this next example reveals the real story. Mistake number 14, leaving ethanol fuel sitting in the tank. Most modern pump gas has up to 10% ethanol in it, and ethanol is a disaster for marine engines. Here is what happens. Ethanol is hygroscopic, meaning it literally pulls moisture out of the air. Leave that fuel sitting in your tank for weeks between trips, and it absorbs water until the fuel and water separate. This is called phase separation. And once it happens, the water alcohol layer sinks to the bottom right where your fuel pickup sits. Now your motor is trying to run on water and corrosive alcohol. I have pulled carburetors off outboards that sat all winter with untreated ethanol fuel, and the insides looked like they had been dipped in white crust. Jets clogged, floats stuck, gaskets dissolved. On a fuel-injected motor, that same gunk destroys injectors and fuel pumps. A carburetor rebuild runs $300 to $600. A set of injectors is easily $800. The fix costs almost nothing. Add marine fuel stabilizer every time you fill up if the boat sits. Run non-ethanol fuel if you can find it. And never let old gas sit longer than 30 days untreated. Old fuel does not just lose power, it eats your fuel system alive. And speaking of things that eat your motor from the inside, this next one is happening every time you shut down in salt water. But the deeper you look, the more interesting it becomes. Mistake number 13, not flushing after saltwater use. If you run in salt or brackish water and don't flush your motor afterward, salt crystals form inside your cooling passages the moment the water evaporates. Those crystals build up like plaque in an artery. Every trip, the passages get narrower, water flow drops, and your motor runs hotter. Eventually, the salt blocks the passages completely and eats through the aluminum from the inside. Guys think a quick rinse of the outside is enough. It's not. The damage happens in the water jackets you can't see. Flush for a solid 5 to 10 minutes after every single saltwater trip using muffs or the built-in flush port, and run it long enough for the thermostat to open so fresh water actually reaches the whole cooling system. A motor that's flushed religiously can run 20 years in salt. One that isn't can be corroded junk in 5. That's the difference between a rinse and a real flush. And if corrosion scares you, wait till you hear what the wrong oil does inside a two-stroke. But the next position belongs to a true classic. Mistake number 12, using the wrong oil or the wrong mix. This one splits two ways depending on your motor. On a two-stroke, The oil mixes with the fuel to lubricate everything, and getting that ratio wrong is catastrophic. Too little oil, say you eyeball the mix instead of measuring, and your pistons seize from lack of lubrication. Too much, and you foul plugs and carbon up the exhaust ports. And using automotive oil instead of marine-grade TCW3 oil? That oil isn't designed to burn clean in a water-cooled 2-stroke, and it leaves deposits that ruin ring seal. On a 4-stroke, people grab whatever car oil is in the garage. But marine 4-stroke oil, FCW rated, has extra corrosion inhibitors because your motor sits in a humid, wet environment that car engines never face. I had a guy run 10-30 car oil in his 4-stroke for 2 seasons. Cam lobes pitted with rust because that oil couldn't protect metal sitting in marine humidity. Use the exact ratio in your manual, measure it, and only use marine-rated oil. That's a $40 jug protecting a $9,000 motor. And while we're on things people get lazy about, this next one wrecks the most expensive part in your whole lower unit. And the next entry might surprise a lot of people. Mistake number 11, ignoring the lower unit gear oil. Down in the lower unit, a set of gears runs in an oil bath, and that oil takes serious abuse. Here's the killer. There are seals around the prop shaft, and fishing line, weeds, or just age can wreck those seals. Once a seal fails, water gets into the gear oil. You'll never know unless you check it. The classic sign is gear oil that looks milky, like coffee with too much creamer. That means water is inside, and water plus spinning steel gears equals rust, pitting, and eventually a lower unit that grenades on the water. Change your lower unit oil at least once a year, and every time you do, look at what comes out. Milky means water intrusion. Fix the seals now. Metal shavings on the drain plug's magnet means the gears are already chewing themselves up. A gear oil change is $20. A new lower unit is $2,500 or more. Most people never pull that drain plug until it's too late. Check the oil, read the signs, catch it early. And if you think ignoring fluids is bad, this next mistake burns motors down at the ramp. Moving forward, we arrive at another unexpected contender. Mistake number 10, running the motor too shallow. When you run in shallow water, or worse, when you're idling around at the boat ramp or in weedy shallows, your water pump sucks up sand, silt, and debris. That grit goes straight into your impeller housing and cooling system. Sand acts like sandpaper on the rubber impeller, wearing it out fast, and it can scratch the pump housing so the impeller never seals right again. Even worse, mud and debris can clog the water intake screens entirely and starve the motor of cooling water without you noticing. You're trolling through a shallow, weedy flat. Motor sounds fine, but that impeller's getting ground down with every rotation. Get up on plane and get into deeper water as fast as safely possible. Tilt the motor up when maneuvering in the shallows, and check your Telltale, that little P stream, constantly. If it weakens or stops, your cooling's compromised. A steady, strong stream means water's flowing. A dribble means shut it down before you cook it. And speaking of that telltale stream, ignoring it leads directly to this next disaster. Now let us move to the next entry on the list. Mistake number 9, ignoring the telltale. That little stream of water shooting out the side of your motor isn't just a cute feature. It's your outboard's single most important health gauge, and most people never even glance at it. That stream tells you the water pump is working and water is circulating through the block. The moment it stops, weakens, or goes from a strong, steady arc to a sad dribble, your motor is telling you it's about to overheat. I see it every summer. Someone's cruising, the telltale quits. They don't notice because they're not looking. And 10 minutes later, the alarm screams and the power head's already scorched. If you're learning something here, do me a favor and hit that like button. Now, when that stream weakens, the usual culprit is a clogged telltale tube, easy to clear with a piece of weed whacker line, or a failing impeller, which is serious. Either way, Glancing at that stream every few minutes is the single easiest habit that'll save you thousands. No pee, no go. Shut it down the second it stops. And while overheating cooks your motor, this next mistake strains it every time you leave the ramp. And this is where things take a turn. Mistake number 8, trimming wrong and lugging the motor. Trim is the angle of your motor relative to the boat, and getting it wrong destroys your engine 2 different ways. Trim in too far, motor tucked under, and the bow plows into the water. Now your engine is fighting massive drag, straining under load, burning fuel and overheating. That's called lugging, and it's like driving uphill in top gear the whole time. Trim out too far and the prop starts to ventilate, sucking in air, so the revolutions per minute suddenly spike wild with no load. That over-revving is just as damaging. People leave the motor trimmed all the way down from launch and just power through, wondering why they're getting terrible fuel economy and the motor sounds like it's screaming. Trim down to get on plane, then trim out gradually until the boat feels light and the revolutions per minute come up without the prop ventilating. Your motor should sound relaxed, not strained. Watch your tachometer. If you're at wide open throttle and can't reach the top of your rated revolutions per minute range, you're lugging it. And that ties directly into the next mistake, because the wrong prop makes lugging permanent. Now we move to something completely different. Mistake number 7, running the wrong propeller. Your propeller has a pitch number, and it has to match your boat and load, or your motor pays the price forever. Pitch is how far the prop would travel in one rotation. Too much pitch, and it's like starting your car in 3rd gear. Your motor can't reach its rated RPM at wide open throttle. It lugs constantly, runs hot, and carbons up. Too little pitch and the motor over-revs past its red line, wearing everything out fast. Here's the rule almost nobody follows. At wide open throttle with a normal load, your motor should reach the upper end of the RPM range printed in your manual. If it can't get there, your prop pitch is too high. If it blows way past, it's too low. I've seen motors run for years 200 or 300 RPM below their range because of a mismatched prop, and the owners wondered why they were on their second power head. And a dinged, bent prop from hitting bottom throws the whole thing out of balance, sending vibrations straight into your bearings and seals. Get the prop matched with a tachometer, and replace it if it's damaged. And speaking of damage you cause yourself, this next mistake snaps drive components clean off more often than most owners realize. It usually happens in seconds, and the worst part is that it's completely preventable. A simple habit, done the wrong way, puts enormous stress on parts that were never designed to take that kind of force. One careless move can bend shafts, break mounts, crack housings, or shear expensive components, turning what should have been a routine task into a major repair bill. The next entry shows just how far this idea can go. Mistake number 6, gunning it in gear and slamming shifts. An outboard's gear case is built to be shifted deliberately, not abused. Every time you move the shifter into forward or reverse, a component called the clutch dog locks the gears together using square-cut engagement teeth designed for quick, positive engagement. But when you slam the shifter from neutral into gear at high idle, or worse, blip the throttle while shifting, those teeth collide at high speed instead of locking together cleanly. Over time, the repeated impacts round off the edges of the clutch dog, and once those sharp corners are gone, the gear case can no longer hold itself in gear under load. The first warning sign is the engine suddenly popping out of gear when you accelerate. Ignore it, and you're looking at an expensive lower unit rebuild that can easily cost well over $1,000. The proper technique is simple. Let the engine return to its lowest idle. Make one quick firm shift into gear without hesitating halfway. Then wait a second for full engagement before adding throttle. Slow, hesitant shifts are almost as bad as violent ones because they allow the gears to grind against each other instead of locking together cleanly. And here's something many boat owners never think about. Every time the lower unit strikes a stump, rock, sandbar, log, or the lake bottom, that impact travels straight through the propeller, prop shaft, bearings, and gears. Even if the prop only has a small nick, the force can bend the prop shaft slightly, or chip internal gear teeth, leading to vibration, leaking seals, contaminated gear oil, and premature gear case failure. If you hit something, inspect the prop, check for fishing line around the prop shaft, and inspect the gear oil for signs of water or metal before heading back out. Shift correctly, idle down before every gear change, and always know what's under your boat. Treat your gear case with respect, and it'll reward you with years of reliable service. And while this kind of damage happens on the water, the next mistake quietly destroys outboards while they're sitting in the driveway. And then there is this. Mistake number 5, storing the motor tilted up long-term with water inside. How you store your outboard matters more than most people realize. Store it tilted up for the winter, and any water trapped in the cooling passages or the exhaust can pool in the wrong places. In freezing temperatures, that trapped water expands and cracks the block or the exhaust housing. That's a catastrophic motor-ending failure from something as simple as parking angle. Store the motor in the full down, vertical position for long-term storage so water drains completely out of the cooling system by gravity. If you must winterize in a cold climate, this is non-negotiable. Water left in the block that freezes will crack aluminum like an egg, and no amount of repair brings that back. It's a new power head, down position, fully drained every time you park it for a stretch. And leaving water inside is bad, but leaving the battery connected wrong causes its own headaches, which brings us to number 4. But that is only part of the story. Mistake number 4, neglecting the battery and electrical connections. Marine environments are brutal on electrical systems. The constant moisture and, in salt use, the corrosive air attack every terminal and connection. People let green corrosion build up on the battery terminals until the motor cranks slow or won't start at all, then blame the battery. The real killer is corroded, loose connections causing voltage drop, which makes your motor hard to start and can even confuse the sensors on a fuel-injected engine. And a weak or dying battery makes the charging system work overtime, stressing the stator and rectifier, which are expensive to replace. Keep terminals clean and coated with dielectric grease, make sure connections are tight, and keep the battery charged on a maintainer during storage instead of letting it drain flat. A dead flat battery left all winter is often a ruined battery by spring. Clean connections and a healthy battery keep the whole electrical system happy. And electrical neglect is one thing, but this next one is the mistake that quietly ages every motor on the water. And this is where the list gets serious. Mistake number 3, running at wide open throttle constantly. Some people think the motor's rated for full throttle, so they run it pinned the whole time. Technically, the motor can handle its top of the range, but living there constantly is a different story. Sustained wide-open throttle generates maximum heat, maximum stress, and maximum fuel and oil consumption, and it accelerates wear on every internal component. On the flip side, some people baby the motor so hard they idle around at low RPM for hours. And that's also bad, because it carbons up the combustion chamber and fouls plugs, especially on 2-strokes. The healthiest thing for your motor is varied cruising RPM, somewhere in the middle of the range where it makes efficient power without cooking itself. And here's a habit that saves motors. On a fresh or rebuilt powerhead, the break-in period matters enormously. Varying the RPM and not pinning it wide open during those first critical hours sets the ring seal for the life of the motor. Cruise it, don't punish it, and don't baby it either. And speaking of heat and stress, the next mistake makes overheating almost guaranteed. But the story does not end there. Mistake number 2, ignoring the thermostat and overheat alarms. Your outboard has a thermostat, just like a car, and it's one of the cheapest, most ignored parts on the motor. That thermostat opens and closes to keep the engine at the right operating temperature. When it sticks closed from corrosion or age, your motor overheats even if the water pump is perfect. When it sticks open, the motor runs too cold, which causes poor combustion and carbon buildup. And that overheat alarm or warning horn, when it sounds, People's first instinct is to think it's a glitch and keep running just to get back to the dock. That decision cooks the power head in minutes. If your overheat alarm sounds, shut the motor down immediately, tilt up, check the water intakes for debris, and check that Telltale. Replace the thermostat every couple of seasons as cheap insurance. A thermostat is a $15 part. Ignoring one alarm is a $6,000 power head. Never, ever run through an overheat warning to save yourself a tow. And that brings us to the single biggest, most expensive mistake of them all. That might sound impressive, but the next one is even more surprising. Mistake number 1, skipping the water pump impeller replacement. Everything comes back to this one little rubber part, and it is the #1 killer of outboard motors, period. That impeller is the heart of your entire cooling system. It's made of rubber, and rubber wears out, hardens, and cracks with age and heat, even if you never abuse it. Here's what nobody tells you. Even a motor that runs perfectly can have an impeller that's silently deteriorating. The vanes take a permanent set, lose their flexibility, and pump less and less water each season until one hot day they can't keep up and your power head cooks without warning. The Telltale might still be peeing right up until the moment it fails. I've torn down impellers that looked fine on top but had vanes cracked at the base, ready to shatter. Replace your water pump impeller every 1 to 2 years, no matter how good it looks, and always after any time the motor was run dry or in silty water. It's a $100 job that prevents the $4,000 disaster. This is the maintenance item that separates the motors that die at 8 years from the ones that run strong at 25. Do not skip it. Your impeller doesn't fail gradually where you'll notice. It fails all at once, on the hottest day, miles from the dock. If you like uncovering hidden truths, subscribe and join us again soon.